Before we go to the second movement, let me play the first 8 bars of the first movement. Now, let me take the first and the last notes of this arpeggio triad. The first and the last, and also the gruppetto, but I will raise it a third higher. Then, let me go straight to the 7th bar, which is, and the 8th bar. Here is the result of such a copy and paste. But now let me modulate this to major key. And now let me play the opening of the second movement. Is this a coincidence? Maybe, but less likely. Why? Because in many other pieces, Beethoven showed his fondness of transforming his original materials into something else. That something else which is perhaps unidentified but could be felt by his listeners. Something that makes his compositions feel structurally solid, yet at the same time sounded diverse. This economical mean of using musical materials is one of the hallmark qualities in Beethoven. I'm going to summarize who Beethoven was. First, definitely he was a great artist. And second, he was also an expert in economics, music-wise and career-wise. And third, he was also an expert in architecture. Well, now let's talk about what special features in this slow second movement of this sonata. How we could get to know more of Beethoven through the notes he left us with. First, a strong sense of the subdominant chord in this movement. In the key of F major, here is the sound of the subdominant. Subdominant chord has its distinct quality, and let me give you a simple example. Let me play with simple harmonizations of this famous and tell me when the subdominant chord arrives and what atmosphere it creates. Here is the subdominant chord. To me, the chord is like saying more than just a happy birthday, but there is a sense of exaltation and a lofty wish for a long, glorious life. The same chord we find right at the beginning of this second movement. It appears even stronger here. And when the theme appears an octave higher, with this subdominant chord coloring the atmosphere here, his dreams and my dreams, performing his work, together are flying high. Second thing, I will play this part that I consider as the highest point of intensity. I found his inner energy was endless, creating a very long line of embellishments running free down and up. Another place for his enthusiasms I could find is at the closing section. This is a farewell to the second movement theme. If we do not meet Beethoven's bubbling enthusiasms, these closing sections could be redundant and boring. But if we meet his childlike spirit, this passage is a magical playground of both imaginations and emotion. Here is the theme of the second movement. That becomes the source of the closing sections. Now it is repeated to show the playfulness. I love what the left hand does here. And one more repetition, rising higher in the mood of silent celebrations. The third thing from this movement. We could learn Beethoven was a man who was often misunderstood. Here I'm quoting his own letter called the Heiligenstadt Testament, written years later but summarizing so well what this man was feeling. O you men who think or say that I am malevolent, stubborn or misanthropic, how greatly do you wrong me. You do not know the secret causes of my seeming. From childhood my heart and mind were disposed to the gentle feelings of goodwill. Beethoven's rough appearance was a reflection of his indomitable spirit. Beneath that was hidden his insecurity due to his perfectionist demand and low self-esteem due to his unpleasant upbringing. Later in his midlife, the most devastating thing happened. He lost his hearing. He was isolated from his most intimate companion, the sound of music. But early in his life, he had experienced a different kind of isolation, the social isolation. True, that his temperament was unpredictable, like a volcano, can lie dormant and display its majestic grandeur, but do not come near when it explodes. Unfortunately, we often tend to be heavily sided to his explosive nature. The second movement truly proves his noble, gentle, full-spirited inner being, a wanderer seeking peace and beauty. All the true qualities of his innermost as what he outpoured in his Heiligenstadt Testament.